I wish everyone knew the magic and the power of their body and of their unique individuality.
Yeah.
The body is self-healing. And again, because we are such a plugged in culture and we have all these systems in place and it just is what it is, it's very hard for us to see outside of that box and to trust that if we drop into our body, if we start working with our body, then that's actually healing at the root rather than just putting a band-aid on something and like taking a
Right.
pill.
Hello, and welcome to the Connectedness Podcast. Just as you might have guessed, I talk about connection and connectedness on this podcast, our connection with everything in the world around us. Whether you see it or not, we're all connected, and it doesn't matter if it's our dog, our cat, our God, our body. And I'll also talk about some more abstract connections like our career or our land, our community, our emotions, your body. Life is all about connection, so the sooner we recognize that, the sooner we can have an easier, more meaningful life. I will talk about these connections through different lenses, things like synchronicities and coincidences, or just everyday little bits of magic and miracles that we usually dismiss. It's really important that we pay attention to all of this so we can live an easier, more meaningful life. So welcome to the show. I'm your host, Karen Cleveland. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am super excited to introduce you to my guest today. I have with me Daria Drake. She is a somatic healing practitioner with roots in yoga and traditional Chinese medicine. She began her entrepreneurial journey with an eco life brand and then transitioned her business in the wake of the pandemic as she began to embody the change that was being asked of her, like many of us had to. She works at a nervous system level to help clients integrate past wounds, begin to transform out of conditioned responses, and learn to love themselves unconditionally and wholly. That sounds so fantastic. Welcome to the show, Daria.
Thank you so much for having me, Karen.
You bet. I'm excited to dig into this. I think the first thing I'd love to hear about, and the listeners would probably love to hear, is how did your journey start? Was yoga a thing that existed your entire life, or did you move into that whole world slowly or quickly, even? Why don't you tell us about that?
My journey with yoga was unexpected and happened. I didn't start practicing regularly until I was in my mid to late 30s. I did grow up dancing, and so I had always really been in my body. And as a younger adult, I started rock climbing. And what happened there was I was clenching so much that my body um, didn't want to let go.
Oh,
Yeah, like this. And the clenching was from the rock climbing, and it was also from my nervous system and the way that I felt I needed to protect myself.
yeah.
And so that expressed itself quite literally. I had a lot of pain in my neck, shoulders, arms, wrists, which I think can be common in climbers, but it was extreme and, I really couldn't get rid of the pain. So I slowly started going more regularly to yoga, and I was a freelance graphic designer as well as having my eco life brand. And I was able to support this more regular yoga practice by trading graphic design for unlimited yoga at my local yoga studio. And then the next thing I knew, I was helping my teacher with her website. And she turned to me and asked me and said, "When are you doing the teacher training? Are you going to do the teacher training this year?" And that was 2018. And I thought, well, I don't really want to be a teacher, but okay, I'll do it. And yeah, I think a lot of times we just stumble into things not knowing that it's going to change our lives. And
Yeah.
being in that container for 4 solid months, every other weekend, the entire weekend, it was a bit like being at an ashram or a monastery, like
Right.
arriving at 7 a.m. in the morning, leaving at 6:30 p.m., resting, and then doing the same thing on Sunday.
Wow.
And this had yeah, it had a profound effect on me. And then I went on to do the advanced teacher training, and I continued learning with her and did her transforming trauma certificate. And yeah,
Okay.
the pandemic came shortly after that, and I had to just lay everything down. I realized I was totally exhausted and began to, like, really embody those things, as I mentioned, embody those things that I had been learning for so many years, but was too distracted and in my conditioning to really, like, make certain changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to something you said that never really struck me before, that you had your body was tense because of the rock climbing.
Mhm.
And I suppose is there a lot of fear in rock climbing? I mean, you're doing it. I don't do it because I'm afraid to. Well, lots of reasons I don't do it. But so does your body hold on to that fear from rock climbing or doing, I guess, a sport like that, an extreme sport?
Mhm. The kind of rock climbing I was mostly doing was indoor, and it's called bouldering, where
Okay.
you're not strapped into a harness. They're not really high climbs, but
Okay.
they are very challenging, like very challenging physically. Um, I already had fear in my body.
Uh,
I was already in, my conditioning was and many people have this conditioning where we still have old emotions in our body. And I know that this was an underlying current already that
mhm.
was flowing through me. Yes, I did feel afraid sometimes rock climbing, but a lot of it was my ego and moving from the ego and thinking, oh, I should be able to do this. Why can't I do this like this other person can do it? And really pushing myself beyond, I think there's a healthy limit or a healthy like pace or titration that we can keep that continues to move us forward. But when we push too hard and we don't rest and release, then things just pile up on top of us.
Right. That makes sense. So you work with clients at a nervous system level, and I've heard about nervous system titration. What is that all about? What does that mean? And what is
Yeah.
that?
A lot of people, are talking about nervous system regulation, which I think is like, that's what we want. We want to be able to go out in our day, and as things happen to us and around us, we can easily come back into our window of tolerance of like, okay, I am feeling safe in my body. So when I talk about titration, I'm speaking specifically to I have a nervous system response where I shut down in these certain situations. So rather than throwing somebody all the way in and just teaching them to like, rather than blast, it's kind of like blasting open the nervous system as opposed to like, I'm going to take incremental steps to be able to put
Okay.
myself in that situation. Um, yeah. Does that make sense?
A little bit. How does a
Yeah.
person recognize that in themselves if they're, having a nervous system like build up blocks or
Yeah.
whatever it is? What does that feel like?
It expresses itself in so many ways.
Okay.
So we think about fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And many of us have these responses without even realizing that that is what's happening. So
Right.
maybe you procrastinate a lot around projects and you're like, I don't know why. I just can't seem to get this done, or I can't get motivated to do this project. Well, really, your nervous system is taking care of is in control of your ability to show up and do the thing or not. And so, another example would be if I choose like a specific kind of partner. that is unhealthy, but it models what I've been shown, like
Right.
this is another expression. So it can be subtle and we can become frustrated with ourselves because we know logically in our brain that I'm not supposed to be doing this,
Right.
but I can't seem to stop myself. And so being in a behavior or a pattern that you can't seem to break or move through is a sign that you could benefit from some nervous system regulation. I think also, one thing I talk about a lot is connecting to what's within. We're very distracted in our society and like this productivity culture,
Yeah.
the toxicity of some aspects of capitalism, and all of these things just kind of add to us not being connected to the truth about what's happening to us.
Mm. Wow. So even things like procrastination could be a symptom, huh? Is it always something, do you think?
It's hard for me to think super binary,
Okay.
like black
Okay.
and white.
Yeah.
There's always a bigger story or a bigger picture. So I think like the story of why you do something is important, and
Oh, wow.
if you can plug in and connect more deeply with yourself, that's going to give you so many more answers.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So two questions, but let's start with one and see where that goes. So if you're saying if someone can plug into themselves, how does that work? What would they do?
Yeah. I have a really beautiful somatic self care ritual. And if you get that, what I talk about in there is physically, literally landing on the ground and removing the distractions that are all around us and getting really quiet, which actually can be dysregulating for people. So maybe it's like, if that's too scary, if you need to like titrate your way to that stillness, maybe you
Yeah.
go for a walk in nature, and then you have like some stimuli, some visual stimuli, but you leave your phone in the car and yeah, just see what happens. But I literally, you know, when the pandemic came, I would get on my floor every single day and just roll on my sides and just roll
Oh,
around.
huh.
And it's about listening. So quieting the mind so that we can listen. And like oftentimes people who have been chronically in the parasympathetic nervous system, like it's very hard to turn off the thinking mind and to quiet the chatter.
Right.
So rolling on the ground, and definitely yoga nidra was one of the things that really put me on the ground, so to speak, and help me actually rest, relax, and yeah, rest really.
That's interesting. I had another guest say that she gets on the ground like that and rolls around sometimes. So she
Mm.
must be familiar with what you're talking about. So yoga nidra, how is that to those that don't know a lot about yoga? Is that,
Mhm.
the yoga that we might think in the head of sitting on the floor and meditating or doing the, downward dog, or what kind of yoga is that?
Yoga nidra translates to like sleep yoga, and you can sit comfortably and do it. Or in my somatic self care circle and my other containers, my one on one clients, everybody gets this because it is so, so powerful.
Yeah.
And you basically it's active rest. So you're quiet, you're lying on the ground. If you feel safe, you can close your eyes or put something over your eyes. And it's a guided meditation where we tap into your heartfelt desire, where you connect with the flow of your breath. You can explore the interiority, your interior landscape mentally with your mind, using your mind to go
Okay.
through your body. So it's very somatic, it's very restful and nourishing. And if you can get like 30 minutes in, it's kind of like taking a 2 hour nap. So I was in a place of burnout. And this was the only, like, this helped me sleep. This helped me actually feel rested. And it helps to connect you with the part of you that is always grounded, always still, and always knows. So I like to speak to that as like your higher self. So the part of you that is always there, that knows all of the answers,
Right.
is cheering you on, and wants what is the very best for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So, how do you suppose our emotions relate to our whole physiology and health?
Yeah. This is like super Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, which is something that I've been studying for a handful of years now, but there's so much more to learn. So, our emotions, the flow of our emotions through our body is controlled by our breathing and the diaphragm.
Hmm.
So, in traditional Chinese medicine, you have energetic pathways that run all through your body. And these pathways are connected to organs, emotions, physiological processes, and your musculoskeletal functions. So I'll just use like a practical example. So if I'm out in public and say somebody, I feel somebody shames me or embarrasses me or something, it might not be the appropriate time for me to say something in reply because I'm out in public. So I've got to like hold on to that emotion.
Yeah.
Many of us are conditioned as like people pleasers or, being polite. I live in the South. And so a big part of my growing up was don't talk about politics. Don't talk about this. Don't talk about that. Be polite. Say,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
everyone else feel good
Yeah. Yeah.
so they don't feel uncomfortable at the expense of yourself, basically. So if
Right.
you never get to express that emotion or let it come out of your body, then it's just going to hang out in there. And that, like I was speaking to earlier, creates buildup
Yeah.
in your body, in your nervous system. And it's like armor and it freezes us and it freezes our muscles, it constricts us, and it creates suffering and pain inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's really cool because in traditional Chinese medicine, at the you look holistically at all the physiological processes. Where is the person feeling pain? How is the expression of the breath? So like the diagnosis then becomes the treatment. So you can easily say, all right, we're going to work with your stomach and spleen to help you through this worry.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, what is the recommendation if you are out in public and someone says something, rude? Do we should we respond immediately, or
You
is there a practice to do afterwards?
Yeah. People call it being triggered when you're
Yeah.
pushed outside of that
Yeah.
window of tolerance. I think when we're triggered is not a good time to respond
Okay.
because we're actually not response able. We become reactive.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be reactive because then it just becomes this reactivity
Right.
match, right? I actually saw this really beautiful Instagram post and it said, if anybody is rude to you or is like lashing out or something, just turn to them and say, is everything okay with you? And I thought about the times in my life where I could apply that. And that sounded like that feels really good to me. So I haven't used it yet. So I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love that idea as a response. It's like something obviously is not okay with you because you're taking it out on me.
Right. Exactly. That's
Yeah.
really interesting. And it goes back to an idea I believe in, that we shouldn't take things personally when people say stuff like that to us, because
Hmm.
who knows what led up to the way they're acting. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So, what kind of self care do we do for ourselves to help just with all of this? What's
Mhm.
possible for us?
Definitely, there is yoga nidra, and I have a few videos out on YouTube. I'm going to be putting out my season 2 here soon. So, definitely yoga nidra. I recommend also doing breath work practices. Even if you just take 5 minutes in the morning to connect with your breathing and control the inhale and the exhale, that's going to help you come so much more into your body for
Oh,
your day.
oh, interesting.
So, yeah, those are two not too complicated things that anyone can do.
Right, right. And I'm just curious. So you did some teacher training, and I'm sure you continue to learn. Do you like to do your self study? Do you like, or your learning, I guess? Do you take classes in person? Do you like to do a lot through Zoom, like it seems to be normal these days? I'm just curious what your own self
Mhm.
education process is.
Yeah, honestly, doing things virtually has really, I would say, expedited or like created a lot more opportunity for me to do learning because all of a sudden these trainings that can get pretty expensive and like might be more
Yeah.
and might be like, overseas or something. I have been able to do them because they are online. Um, I actually just signed up for a business mentorship that's all virtual that I'm really excited for. I
Yeah.
work with my clients virtually. All that being said, looking forward to starting to teach more in person in my hometown. I think there's going to be, when all is been manifested, a beautiful balance of doing things in person and connecting with people in real life, and then also creating opportunity and being able to serve more people. Definitely, it helps to
Yeah.
do things online. So,
Yeah, it's really opened up avenues for us, hasn't it? That things we didn't think were accessible, going away to school for something, for several months or something. So it is a new world and a new situation. Is there anything you wish people would stop doing that, they come to you all the time? It's like, oh, people, you need to
mhm.
stop doing this.
I always understand and have compassion for like the behaviors that people come to me with. And I guess if I were to like blanket statement something, it's like stop trying to use your brain so much
Mm,
and start using your body more for the answers because we can pathologize, we can self diagnose, we can run circles around ourselves with our brain.
yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times that just creates more anxiety in the body when what is much more effective is if I can go through my body, I don't even have to go to that traumatic place. I can just tap into the feeling tone and then work to shift that feeling within me. Yeah, so I would say, and this is like something that I say also all the time, is like get out of your head and into your body. Get out of your head and into your body, into your body, into your body. So
Oh,
it's like, yeah, there's so much wisdom, there's so much information. And when we do have specific conditioning to know what is my intuition versus what is my fear response or my
uh-huh.
conditioned response. And so that can be really hard to untangle too. So that's why it's good to work with somebody in a one-on-one or group container to get yourself going,
Yeah.
really.
So is that something you help people do, is figuring out what their intuition is versus what's not them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's not such like a this is this and that's that, but like, let's sift through this. What are you taking this action for? Why do you feel like you need to take this action?
Uh-huh.
I
Right.
like to ask them, how will this benefit you? Is this for
Uh,
you or is this for them?
Very good. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Because if it's not for you, probably don't need to do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, we don't have control over anybody except for ourselves. Like, you can't make anybody change their mind. You can't make anybody treat you differently. And if you stay in certain situations, there's like only so much progress you'll be able to make
Yeah.
because of that other person's influence or
Right.
yeah, over you.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of work to do sometimes. So this might sound kind of the same question, but it might not be. What do you wish everyone knew?
I wish everyone knew the magic and the power of their body and of their unique individuality.
Yeah.
The body is self-healing. And again, because we are such a plugged in culture and we have all these systems in place and it just is what it is, it's very hard for us to see outside of that box and to trust that if we drop into our body, if we start working with our body, then that's actually healing at the root rather than just putting a band-aid on something and like taking a
Right.
pill.
Yeah. So many people are just on autopilot, right? They just all the moves, go through all the moves every day and go to the
Mhm.
doctor and take their pill and don't even consider sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes they need someone to help them know
Mhm.
they need to consider something else. But
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, well, fantastic. So where can people find these videos? Where are you on YouTube? And you talked about, I think, a meditation or no,
The yoga
something.
nidra. Mhm.
So yeah, where can we find you online?
My handle everywhere is
Okay.
alifealigned.co. So that's my website and YouTube. I think you can do youtube.com/alifealigned.co. But
Oh,
if you
okay.
just search that in YouTube, you should be able to find that. And I can certainly send you the link too,
Okay. So
for any show notes.
that's usually my last question, but now I have another question. So a life aligned, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. This actually was my slogan from my eco-conscious
Okay.
lifestyle brand, A
Okay.
Life Aligned, and it made it through the pandemic because that is that's what I want. That's what I wanted. I wanted my external life to match what I felt inside of
Okay.
me. And,
Nice.
prior to the pandemic, it felt like everything felt like a mismatch. Like, why can't I just be who I
Mhm.
feel I am inside?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We should be able
So,
to be that.
yes. Yes. So
Right.
this has like just been my journey to finding my life in alignment with my true nature, as
Yeah.
I like to call it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Daria. It's been a real pleasure talking to you today. And I know I want to go check out your YouTube channel and do some of the yoga nidra as well. So appreciate that. And to my listeners, goodbye. And we will connect again, I hope. So talk to you soon.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so
Uh,
much for having me.
You're welcome. All right. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to head over to revkarenpodcast.com. That's REVKAREN podcast.com. There, you're going to find the tools for finding more meaning and happiness in your own life. Plus, if you have a story that you want to share with me, either on or off the air, be sure to look for that form. Make sure you follow me so you get notified when new episodes drop. And also, I'd love to connect with you in my Facebook group, Connectedness with Rev Karen. So head over to revkarenpodcast.com. I hope to see you there.